Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. Today I am standing in front of my design wall, and what I have back here are a sampling of all of the Stash Buster blocks from 2020. I think I have 27 of the blocks up here at the moment. What I wanted to talk to you about today was going through your Stash Buster blocks and deciding how to put them together. And I talked about this a little bit last year when I started this series, but you know, that's been a year ago. So I think at this point, if you have followed along and you've made each of the blocks, or you've made some of the blocks and you're ready to put them into a quilt top, you might be wondering, you know, how am I going to go about this? The blocks are different colors, they're different sizes, and what is the best way to use them? Well, there's all different things you can do. You can put them all in one quilt if you want to and just let it be a scrappy quilt. You can put them together with sashing, you can put filler strips in, you can do alternate blocks, you can separate them out. You can make more than one quilt with these if you want to, and there's no reason why they all have to go in one quilt. So if you want to, you know, split them up, make a couple of different quilts, make different projects. You can make pot holders, you can make placemats, table runners, banners, wall hangings, crib quilts, lap quilts, kids quilts. You know, you don't have to make one quilt out of all these blocks. But I do suggest is that when you're done making your blocks is to look at them all in one area if you can. Now I am kind of fortunate in that I made more than one of each block. I made at least 2 of every single block, and majority of them I made 4. So I can put, you know, 4 of them together and make a nice project, whether it's a table runner or 4 different placemats or pot holders, or you know, a vertical wall hanging or something, or even a horizontal wall hanging. You could do something like that. So it's just a matter of deciding what I want to do and which blocks I want to use, and which is another point, you don't have to use every single block that you made. There are some of these blocks that I really don't particularly care for, and it may be because it's the color of the fabric that I chose, or just maybe the pattern. I'm just not that excited about the particular pattern. So those quilt blocks I may not use at all. Anyway, my furnace is about ready to kick on, so I am going to turn off the camera and I'm going to play around with my blocks, try and sort them out and get some kind of an idea of things that I can do with these quilts, and then things I can do with these blocks, and then I will be back and show you some of my ideas. I have been trying to get a good view of this quilt layout, and it is actually too big for me to get all in one shot in my studio here. So I am holding the camera and I'm giving you kind of an angle shot here. Now this isn't every block of the Stash Buster series, because I've already started putting a bunch of these together into different quilt tops. So this is just, some of these are duplicates is what I'm trying to say. You can see there's the double anchor, which is right there. I've also duplicated it right down there, so I have 2 of those in here instead of another block, and there are several like that, but this gives you an idea of a layout. Okay, what I did was I broke everything down by size now and found a common denominator. Now we've got 12-inch blocks and 8-inch blocks here, so the common denominator between 8 and 12 is 24. I had to stop and think a minute. So it takes 3 8-inch blocks to make 24 inches. It takes 2 12-inch blocks to make 24 inches. So you can see here I've got 2 12-inch blocks, and then down here there are 3 8-inch blocks. Now right now it may not look like they will fit, but you've got 2 seams here which will take up a 1/2 inch each, and there's only 1 seam here, and that will take up a 1/2 inch. So we got a 1/2 inch being taken up here and 1 inch being taken up down here, and that will equal it out. Now this is a really busy looking layout, and to me it's overwhelming. So what I would do if I wanted to use all of these blocks with all of these different colors in one quilt would be separate things out with sashing. So you could put sashing around every single block. You could put sashing between sections, like if you wanted to do the top 4 12-inch blocks, you know, you could just sew those together and then put sashing between those and the 3-inch blocks. And these are set up in rows. There are 3 rows. So the first row starts up here with the apple leaf block and the block next to it, which I think is contrary wipe if I remember. And then everything down below it is all one row. And then we have a second row starting over here, and it's starting with 3 of the 8-inch blocks, and then we go over here and we're back to 12-inch blocks. So you could separate all of these out with sashing. Now I've provided you with several different layouts. I think I've come up with 9 so far. Every time I think about this, I come up with another. But you can rearrange these rows. You don't have to have them in the same order that I have them in. And you could, you know, if you like, just piece them the way they are and then put sashing between the rows, not between the different sections. And then you could also, you know, put your sashing between each section or between each block, you know, however you want to do that. So I've got those layouts for you to look at and decide how you want to do that. And I also have 2 layouts that are completely different than this row type thing. They're more of a medallion type where it focuses in on the center of the quilt, and then the blocks are built out from that point. So it will give you a lot of negative space where you can do a lot of quilting. Here is another layout. This one is just in horizontal rows. I started at the top with the 12-inch blocks, and then there's a row of 8-inch blocks, and then a row of 12, and then all the way down, and then at the bottom it ends with a row of 12-inch blocks. My design wall isn't large enough to put most of those designs that I created that start with a medallion in the center and then move out. That takes quite a bit more space than what I have here on this design wall. So I'm just going to show those to you on the graph that I made, and those layouts are available on my blog, and there is a link in the description box below where you can get all of these different layout options. And just plug in your blocks and see what you like. You can use those layouts for any blocks that you have. It doesn't have to be the Stash Buster blocks. If you have 6-inch blocks as well as the 8 and the 12-inch blocks, you can combine all of those together. What you need to do is to realize that the 6-inch blocks, you will need 4 of those to take up the 24 inches that 2 12-inch blocks or 3 8-inch blocks take up. So just keep that in mind and arrange your blocks according to that, and you could mix those in with everything else that you've got. So it works pretty well. And even if you have odd size blocks, like if you have 7-inch blocks or 9 or 10-inch blocks, you can always stitch a frame around those, you know, a small sashing around those to make them the same size as the blocks that you're working with. I did that on the 1880s quilt, and it worked out just fine. So I will also link I will also link that video in the description box below if you want to look at that. But those blocks were all different sizes, and so I just put in sashing around the blocks that needed to be enlarged, and that took care of the problem. So next we'll look at some of the other layouts and talk about them. Now this diagram shows the layout that I showed you with the actual blocks at the beginning of the video. You can see the blue blocks are the 12-inch blocks, and then the yellow are the 8-inch blocks. So I put those into sections and just kind of played around with the layout of those. And it'll give you a space for 52 blocks, and then you can just rearrange your blocks to fit into those spaces according to your color or your pattern, however you like them to look. Now this layout is the same as the first layout, except I've separated them with sashing and a border around it, and these would be 4-inch strips of sashing and 4-inch borders. So of course you can change that to whatever you like. That's just, you know, what I chose to do on this design idea. So that gives you a little breathing space between each row of blocks, and that may be a little bit more appealing to you than just having them all in a straight set with no sashing between them. Now with this layout, I've put sashing between each section of each different size section of blocks. So between, at least in that first row, between the set of 12-inch blocks at the top and between the 6-inch and then all the way down. And then in the second row, I split that first section into a section of 6-inch blocks and a set of 12-inch blocks, and then separated the next set of 12-inch blocks out. So you can put your sashing wherever you want, and that will also give you some breathing room. Now this is where I set them all in rows, and there is no sashing and no borders on this design. They're just set side by side, and you can, you know, arrange the blocks to make them appealing. If you're like me and you weren't particularly concerned about the fabrics you used, and so you've got this mishmash of fabric in each block, this may be a little bit overwhelming, but it would be really pretty if you had a coordinating fabric in each block. And then here is that same layout. It has a 4-inch sashing between the rows and a 4-inch border. And I kept the 6-inch blocks connected to a row of the 12-inch blocks in this design idea, but of course you could separate them all out if you want to. So this just gives you another option. In this layout, it's the same as the previous two. It just has a single border around it, and there is no sashing at all. So that just kind of sets off your blocks a little bit more. So that is one more idea. In this layout, I put sashing between each row of blocks, and that gives you even more of a resting place for your eyes. So that is another idea. This one is one of the medallion ideas that I had told you about earlier in the video. I started with 4 of the 12-inch blocks in the center, and then surrounded them with 8-inch blocks, and then just kind of worked out from there. So the blues are the 12-inch blocks and the yellows are the 8-inch blocks. So that gives you a lot of negative space where you could do a lot of quilting. You could add extra blocks in there if you want to, and you know, that will give you a nice area of place where your eyes can rest. And then on this last layout, I started again with 4 12-inch blocks in the center, surrounding them with the 8-inch blocks, and then I just put on the sides of those, I put 4 of the 12-inch blocks, and then in the corners it's a 12-inch block plus 3 8-inch blocks. Now on this set you will have space to put some extra quilting if you want, or you can also you know, put in extra blocks if you want to. I hope this video gave you some ideas of what you can do with laying out blocks that are different sizes, no matter what kind of blocks they are. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes out. And in the meantime, I hope you are all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.